When I joined the Joffrey Ballet, Robert Joffrey chose me especially. He used to come to Texas, where I was living, born, and he would teach at dance conventions, regional dance festivals, and so on and so forth. So he met me when I was 14 and asked me, the spring of my graduating high school, asked me if I would come to New York and join his company. And he was the father of this part of my life. He brought me to New York. He nurtured me as a dancer and then later nurtured me as a choreographer. He's the one who, after I left the company and moved on to Broadway and was working on Broadway and assisting Michael Bennett, he called me and asked me if I would come and do a ballet for the company. And I thought that my concert life was finished, so I didn't think of it. I thought that my choreographic career after O Calcutta was going to be in the theater. And he sort of drugged me back to the concert world, to the ballet world, and I'm very happy that he did. Mr. Joffrey was a very discerning person. He had an incredible eye, and his programming was fantastic. Putting ballets together in a program to make it really different and unusual. His historical sense was fantastic. He researched heavily everything that he did, or that he was going to present, down to the perfect color red for the bow that was on the girl in Parade. You know, it just, everything had to be exactly right. And that kind of excellence was a huge influence, and I think it's been a huge influence on everyone who ever was in contact with him and who's gone on to choreograph or direct a company. Interestingly enough, of the 21 dancers who were in the company when I was there, 11 of them moved on to, and more than 50% moved on to be directors of companies, choreographers. It's a huge percentage, you know, of any company too. He was a huge, huge influence that way. Cobras in the Moonlight is, I originally created for the Hubbard Street Dance, Chicago. Lou Conti asked me to, we knew each other. He met me through a mutual friend who recommended that I go to choreograph for the company. Lou was also very discerning and a fantastic director. And he wanted something. I sent him a duet that I had done, and he wrote me back and he said, well, we have things that are similar to this. Do you have anything else in mind that you'd like to do? And I said, yes, actually I do. It's a larger piece, and Cobras in the Moonlight, and it is 20 minutes long, and it ended up being his first guest choreographer work that was a full length between intermissions. He had, the company at that time did, they would do 2 or 3 pieces and then have an intermission. They would do 10-minute things, 5-minute things, duets, trios, quartets, maybe a group piece, a company piece, but it would only be 12 minutes. So this was a big plunge for the company to do this 20-minute piece. And it was, the company was fantastic. The dancers were spectacular, really fantastic. I first heard Astor Piazzolla in Venezuela. I was working in Venezuela for the Ballet de Caracas. And one of the dancers had a record, a 33 1/3, of Piazzolla, and I had never heard the music before, and I went completely bonkers over it. And so I researched, as I had been taught, and discovered other music and just played it constantly. And that was around that time that normally when I'm thinking about doing a new ballet, I get an idea and it kind of ruminates, and I ruminate and ruminate and ruminate. It doesn't really come together until I found a place to actually do it. It saves on the disappointment. You know, if you get way too organized before you find a home for a ballet and it never happens, it's very, very discouraging. So I kind of swirl around like a hurricane. So it kind of forms. It's all very nebulous, and then it finally comes to a little tight core, and that becomes the ballet. So when Lou called me about doing a piece, and I had Piazzolla in my head, I decided to do the tangos, and that's why Cobras in the Moonlight. And it, when I started experimenting with the first tango on a pair of modern dancers who were dancing for Jennifer Muller, and it actually started barefoot. So it developed into this ballroom ballet genre that's different from, you know, other styles that I do. I like to, when I create a ballet, it's important to me that it have a life. I don't, I like to I want to make sure that a ballet that I create is something that an audience would say, I want to see that again, not, oh, I saw that already. And that's part of what I do when I create something. And to have, for these ballets, there's so much that goes into them, and so much thought, and so much time, and so much effort from the dancers, effort from me, that I want them to have a life. So it's very satisfying to me when ballets get asked for, you know, for instance, as Robert has said, you know, please would you come and do Cobras in the Moonlight. It's just, I love that, and it's wonderful to revisit. It's, it brings me back to the time that I created it, what was going on at the time, where I was, and also to share this with new dancers, you know, and so that they understand what it is. It's very, very gratifying. Well, I am a native Texan, and but I think of myself as a New Yorker. I left, I left so many years ago, and I left actually like 2 days after I graduated high school. I think Texans are either you'll never leave Texas, or you have to leave Texas, or else. So I was a have to leave Texas or else girl, and Oklahoma, I find Oklahoma different from Texas in that I think that everybody's friendlier. I mean, I've been chased around the grocery store. Can I help you? Can I help you? Can I help you find something? And I think it's terrific. It's not that I don't like Texans. I don't want to give the wrong impression, but I find Oklahoma very, very nice, and everybody's been wonderful here.
How is it working with the dancers of Oklahoma City Ballet?
Oh, they're very, very hungry, and I think that's one thing that I think is really, they're enthusiastic, they're engaged, they're focused, and they're interested in new things and doing new things, which I think is wonderful. And I love it that all the dancers have a different quality. There are no cookie cutter dancers here. Each one has their own personality and their own art to offer, and I think that's very important. I much rather work with dancers who are individuals and have personality than with cookie cutter dancers.